Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday to you. Oh, man, it is the week of Christmas. We are 2 days away from the big man coming to town. And I'm excited. I don't know about you guys, but I love Christmas. I am excited. But you know what? This isn't a show about Christmas. It's a show about sports. Local sports, regional sports, national sports, from high school all the way up to the professional ranks. And what Monday has kind of become over the past few weeks is an impromptu Monday football day, where we are really just going to talk a lot of football, because we had a lot of football going on Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday. And I'm going to start the show by saying this. It's interesting that we had Saturday NFL games that people forgot about. It felt like for the first time ever, at least the first time that I can remember, the NFL was overshadowed on Saturday. And that doesn't happen to the number one sports league in the United States, but that kind of happened on Saturday. I was sitting around watching some college football playoff action. First time we've ever had the first round of the 12-team tournament. And all of a sudden, I get a notification on my phone that was telling me about the score of the Chiefs game. And I was, huh? Oh, yeah, that's right. There's NFL football on today as well. Kind of forgot about that. But on Saturday, that's what we talk about. We'll talk about the college games. We had one on Friday night. Also on Friday night, we had state championship games for high school football. Yes, we had on Friday, we had one of them. That would have been the 4A championship on Friday. And then on Saturday, we had 3 more state championship games for the high school ranks. So we're going to go through the 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A state championship games. I'll tell you what, one thing that I noticed about these games, they were interestingly competitive. I wouldn't say that they were the closest or the greatest games ever, but they were definitely interesting. And we did have a few teams on the west side of the state win that state championship. So let's go ahead and just start things off today with the high school football ranks. Let's go into the 1A bracket. In the 1A bracket, you had the 1 seed out of the east side of the state, Tarboro High School, the Tarboro Vikings, playing Corvian Community. The 5 seed, Corvian Community, they went into that game undefeated. Both teams actually. Tarboro did have a loss on the year on the east side of the state going into the tournament. But Corvian Community had not lost a game. Final score in this one, and this was a game here, 45-24. A 3-score blowout victory for Tarboro Vikings. They win the 1A state championship. Congratulations to Tarboro High School, the 1 seed. You know, they were the 1 seed, so they're the favorite to go all the way to the state championship game, and they end up getting it done, winning that state championship 45-24 over Corvian Community. Tarboro scored 21 points in the fourth quarter of this game. Yes, you heard me correctly. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter of this game, including one to kind of give them a 21-point lead right at the end. Now, this was a not really a blowout from the beginning. Tarboro went into the half up 19-3. Then all of a sudden, Corvian Community scored a couple of times in a row. They made it a little bit of a game, but then Tarboro in the fourth, they broke it wide open, and I mean wide open, and they end up getting the 45-24 victory. Congratulations to Tarboro High School, your 1A North Carolina state champions. In the 2A bracket, out of the east side of the state, it was the 1 seed Northeastern High School, another 1 seed getting into the state championship game. Their competition was number 3, Monroe High School. And I guess we're semi-familiar with Monroe. It's not Not too bad, not too far away from us here, but definitely not within our listening area. Now, what's interesting about this 2A championship game, the same thing happened where the team on the east side of the state, same thing happened in the 2A bracket as did in the 1A, I should say, where the team out of the east had one loss, but they were the 1 seed. The team out of the west side of the state had no losses and was a 3 seed. Well, the 3 seed this time out of the west side of the state ends up getting the state championship. Monroe High School beats Northeastern High School with a final score of 35-25. Monroe outscored Northeastern 21-7 in the second half of this game. Yeah, they went into half down 18-14. But Monroe, they kept it together. They end up winning the state championship game. Congratulations to Monroe High School. Moving on to the 3A bracket, man, West Charlotte and 71st. West Charlotte beating the defending champion Hickory High School in the regional matchup a couple of weekends ago. And then on Friday, they go play 71st High School for a state title. Now, the 2 seed out of the East, 71st High School, was 15-0 going into this game. West Charlotte, now they were 12-2 going in. They had lost a couple of games, which is why they are the seed that they are as an 8 seed going into this game. But it really doesn't matter once you get to the state championship game. Just go win. And that's exactly what West Charlotte ended up doing. West Charlotte gets the 14-7 victory and a state championship. They score that final touchdown of the game in the 4th quarter. Yeah, it was a 7-7 ball game going through a lot of this game. And I mean a lot. We went into the second quarter, and early in the second quarter, 71st High School made it a 7-7 game. So you had it all the way through basically the entire second quarter, the entire third quarter. And then in the 4th quarter, they were able to get the lead, West Charlotte, with a passing touchdown with about 11 minutes to go in the game. They convert the extra point, and they were able to hang on for the state championship. Congratulations to West Charlotte. And the 4A bracket, you have the 1 seed Grimsley taking on Rollsville High School. We've talked a lot about Grimsley High School over the past few weeks because they have the North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year, Faison Brandon, the quarterback on that team. And Grimsley, out of Greensboro, ends up winning that state championship with Rollsville. A 35-23 victory. They had the lead at halftime. They never looked back, including tacking on 14 points in the 4th quarter to claim a state championship and an undefeated season for Grimsley High School. Congratulations to all of the schools that won their state championship games. We're going to get into basketball soon. It's basketball season, ladies and gentlemen. That's the next high school sport we'll talk about. When we come back, we'll get into the college ranks. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Boy. Segment number 2 here on the scoreboard. I didn't mention this in the first segment, probably should have, but today's episode has been recorded at an earlier time. Now, it is still Monday when I'm recording this, but I am not live at 5 o'clock. So as always, there's a small chance that something that we talk about on the show today is old news by the time we get to 5 o'clock. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully everything stays current. We're really going to be talking about things that have already happened. So I don't think there's too much that's going to change as far as news and what I'm talking about. But just in case that's where we're at right now. It is a pre-recorded episode, but today is Monday, so I am recording current content for you guys. Moving on from the high school ranks, we're going to get into college football. For the first time ever, the 12-team college football playoff had their first round games. And a reminder for you, the first round, the better seeded team, and I don't know how you want to say it, the higher seed, the lower seed, whatever team was better seeded, gets home field advantage in the first round. So, for example, on Friday, we had number 10 Indiana play number 7 Notre Dame. This game was played at Notre Dame's home stadium. And that was true for the 3 games that we had on Saturday as well. Clemson visiting Texas, SMU heading to Penn State, and Ohio State hosting Tennessee. I think that made a big difference. I really do, because you look at some of the things that happened on the football field, especially for SMU. SMU Penn State, man, that one hurt, because I was pulling for SMU. I was hoping that they would be able to have a better showing, especially after what happened in the ACC championship game and the whole conversation of should they be in or should Alabama be in? And I'm going to reiterate this. If you're an Alabama fan, you have no right to complain. You lost 3 games. We can't start letting 3-loss SEC teams in over 2-loss ACC teams. We can't do it. I don't care, strength of schedule, all that stuff. Win the games that are in front of you, because it's not like Alabama lost to numbers 1, 2, and 3. No, they lost to unranked and unranked. So you have no right to complain, and neither does anybody else. Who would you rather have seen in the college football playoff? Your first few teams out were Alabama, Miami, Ole Miss, South Carolina, BYU, Iowa State. You get it. Who would have been better? Tell me. Do you think Ole Miss would have been better? They also had 3 losses. Now, granted, Ole Miss had 3 okay losses. I mean, you lose to ranked LSU when they were ranked. Unranked Kentucky, that's a tough one. And unranked Florida. I guess I could say that wasn't really much better. If you're South Carolina, you might have at least a little bit of a gripe, because all 3 of your losses were to ranked teams. You lost to Ole Miss, which obviously now they're going to be ranked ahead of you, which they are. You lost to Alabama, and you lose to LSU. So I don't want to hear any complaining about who made the 12-team playoffs. There's 12 teams. We got to find, are all 12 teams top-tier teams? No. And I think it's going to take a few years before we get to a place where the skill level between all 12 teams in the playoffs is close enough to where we don't have what happened on Saturday, where they were all blowouts. Let's just call it what it was. Indiana scoring late to try to make it a little bit of a game. No, that game was over. It was 20-3 entering the 4th. Game was over. Notre Dame wins 27-17. Then on Saturday, Clemson and Texas, 38-24. Not much of a game. You had Penn State demoralize SMU, 38-10. And then Ohio State said, yeah, we're not going to have any kind of flag planting. We're going to put 21 points up in the first quarter, and we're going to run away with it. A 42-17 victory. Sets up a little bit of a rematch here between Ohio State and Oregon. Remember, that game was played in Eugene earlier in the season. But let's go through some of these games. The common theme to me were the road teams shooting themselves in the foot. And I think I'm going to use SMU as the biggest example of this. SMU had so many missed opportunities. I couldn't even count them by the end of the game. You think about the first 14 points that Penn State scored. pick sixes. The defense was keeping them in the game, but all of a sudden it's 14-0, and all of a sudden the defense sees, oh, hey, the offense isn't moving, and then, oh, hey, the defense has to get back out there again. And then before you know it, you're going to halftime 28-0. Could have been 14-0. Could have been a manageable game. But unfortunately, that's not how it went. SMU, self-inflicted wounds, man. Self-inflicted wounds. Clemson, that second quarter. Do we want to talk about that second quarter? We don't have to. It was bad, though. It was pretty bad. Texas wins 38-24. Texas moves on. A look at the college football bracket. Yeah, it's a bracket. So we have games, one of them on New Year's Eve at 7:30, New Year's Eve, Penn State, Boise State for the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. This is a neutral site game. Then you have New Year's Day games at 1 o'clock, Texas and Arizona State. I'm looking forward to that one. 5 o'clock, Oregon and Ohio State. There's the rematch. And then the night game on New Year's Day, Georgia, without their starting quarterback, Carson Beck, playing Notre Dame. Carson Beck injured in the SEC championship game. He is not going to play for the entirety of the playoffs, no matter how far they go. They can make it to the championship game, and Carson Beck will not be ready. So that's going to be interesting. Notre Dame, do they have a path? There were a lot of people that were counting Notre Dame out, saying, yeah, they're not a real team. A lot of people counting Penn State out, and they're not a real team. They made the Final Eight. I can't take that away from them. Here they are with a chance. And that's all you ask for, right? One interesting thing that happened on Saturday during these college football games was there was NFL action on Saturday. Yeah. Maybe this is the first that you've heard of this. Because I'll tell you what, and I knew it, and I knew that we had Saturday football for the first time in the NFL this year. Not first time ever, just the first time this year that we're doing Saturday games. I knew it was happening, and still by time I got the notification that the Chiefs were playing the Texans and that they were at halftime, I was like, wait a second. There's NFL football on. And I will say, the NFL games, I guess they were a little bit better than the college games. They were a little more competitive. The Chiefs beating the Texans 27-19. That is a 1-point game there. Or I'm sorry, a 1-score game, I should say. Not a 1-point game. That's a 1-score game. And then later in the day, you had another good one. You had the Steelers visiting the Ravens. And I guess you could call it a good one. I don't know. I still don't find the Steelers to be really a threat in the playoffs this year. They are still leading the AFC North, but now Baltimore and Pittsburgh with the same record. What's going to happen there? I think we're seeing another first-round exit for the Steelers. I think that's what's happening. But I cannot remember another time, and I've been thinking about this basically all weekend and all morning today before recording today's program. I cannot think of another time that the NFL had games and they were the ones getting overshadowed. Now, we've talked a little bit about what they're trying to do with Christmas Day. And Christmas Day used to be the NBA's day. It was like, hey, our season's been going on for a while, but this is the unofficial start of the season. We're starting on Christmas Day. Now the NFL said, no, hold on. Pump the brakes on that. We are going to play Christmas Day now. Next week, quote unquote, you have 2 games on Netflix, and it's the same teams that played on Saturday, which I find interesting. The Chiefs, the Texans, the Ravens, and the Steelers. We're just going to flop around who's playing who. So on Christmas Day, you get the Steelers hosting the Chiefs, and the Texans hosting the Ravens. So the same two teams that played on Saturday are going to be playing on Christmas Day, Wednesday. And then obviously you got regular Thursday night football. You have a few Saturday games, and then Sunday is your full slate of NFL games. We're going to talk more about the NFL when we return from the commercial break. We're at the halfway point in the show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll wrap up college football, and then we'll get into the world of the NFL. So don't go anywhere. We're back after this. No, not final segment. We're at the halfway point. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome back. You're listening to the Scoreboard. No phone calls today. Today's episode was recorded at an earlier time, but it is Monday, so all the information is current. One more time before we move on from college football. Texas plays Arizona State. Ohio State plays Oregon. Penn State plays Boise State. And Notre Dame plays Georgia. That's your quarterfinal matchups in the college football playoff for the first time ever, the 12-team college football playoff. And then next year we get to say first time ever that we're doing a 14-team playoff. And then the year after that it'll be first time ever doing a 16-team playoff. And then it'll be first time ever it's only the SEC and the Big Ten. Because that's where we're going. Just, you got to trust me on that one. Maybe not. Okay, maybe not in 3 years. All right, maybe not in 3 years, but eventually we're going to go to a 2-conference system. It's going to look just like the NFL. It might even be like a feeder, like an actual minor leagues for the NFL, especially now that they're paying the kids, right? Why not just say, here's the NFL minor leagues, college football. I don't see why not. And I'm sure somebody out there is probably like, this is a terrible idea because this, and this. Okay. Pump the brakes. I get it. It was a joke. I don't think that the NFL is going to say, hey, we're going to buy the NCAA and make the college football a minor leagues to the NFL. No, that's not happening. Maybe in 20 years it will. Who knows? But let's move on from college football, get into the NFL, continuing our Monday football recap day. Week 16 in the NFL. We are a few weeks away from the playoffs. Now, we do have Monday Night Football tonight, and it's against two teams that, well, one of the teams still has a chance. I'm not going to give the Saints too much love here because they are eliminated. And it's crazy. Think about what we talked about last week and how there were only 3 teams in the AFC that were eligible still to make the playoffs. And how in the NFC, we talked about how many teams were still alive in the playoffs. Well, that is completely flip-flopped now. Right now, you have 3 AFC teams that are outside the playoffs looking in that still have a chance, and you have 2 NFC teams on the outside looking in. Everybody else, the Cowboys, the Cardinals, the Niners, and the Saints, all got eliminated on Sunday. Few things to keep in mind here. Let's start with the AFC, and we're going to get into the Panthers. We'll probably save it for the final segment. They win. They played spoiler against the Cardinals, and they destroyed their draft pick. But we'll talk about that. I'm not too worried about it. Right now, we have 5 AFC teams locked into the playoffs. The Chiefs, the Bills, the Steelers, the Texans. Those are your division winners right now, or I should say division leaders. Not all of them have clinched the division. And then the Ravens. We know those teams are going dancing. The other two teams that are currently on the inside are the Chargers and the Broncos. And right now, I think the Broncos, even though they're 9-6, even though it looks like they're going to have the best chance or one of the best chances to make the playoffs, I think they're in the worst spot to make the playoffs, actually. We'll talk about that in a second. The teams on the outside looking in the AFC, the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals. All three of those teams are 7-8, 2 games behind the teams ahead of them. Doesn't seem very promising, does it? Well, let's look at the schedule for these teams, and we'll start with the Broncos. The Broncos on Saturday have to go to Cincinnati and play the Bengals. The team that's behind them, the team that I think the Bengals are a better team than the Broncos, fighting for their playoff lives. Let's say the Bengals win that game. They then have the tiebreaker over the Broncos with a 1-game lead and 1 game remaining in the season. The Broncos then, on that final day of the season, they have to play the Chiefs. Uh-oh. If the Broncos are going to make these playoffs, they're going to have to show us that they can beat the good teams. And this is it right here. I know you got Bo Nix, rookie quarterback in there. Time to show us what you can do, bud. Time to show us what you can do. You got to beat one of the two. All you need is one of those 2 games you need to win, whether you beat the Bengals or you beat the Chiefs. But the Broncos need one more win to make the playoffs. The situation is no different for the Chargers, who are currently in the playoffs, but they're in the same situation as the Broncos, where they have currently a 9-6 record. They're 2 games above everybody else on the outside looking in. The Chargers' final 2 games of the season, they got to go to Foxborough to play the Patriots, and then they got to go to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. That's a little bit nicer of a schedule. I would expect for the Chargers to win those games. So right now, the question mark is the Broncos. Are the Broncos going to be able to beat the next 2 teams on their schedule, the Bengals and the Chiefs? Because the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals, they all still have a chance. Here's the Colts' remaining schedule. They go to New York to play the Giants, and then they have a home game against a division rival in the Jaguars. Now, they should win both of those games, but it's the Colts. I'm not sure. That's going to be a tough one. And the final team in contention here, the Dolphins. Who would have thought that the Dolphins have a chance to make the playoffs after losing Tua, being as bad as they were early in the season? The Dolphins play the Browns, and then they play the Jets. 2 games that they very well should win. It's going to be a crazy end of the season, ladies and gentlemen. Because I don't know, the Colts, the Dolphins, the Bengals, they all have a chance. Right now, if the Colts win out and the Broncos lose out, the Colts would be in. If the Colts, Dolphins, and Bengals win their final 2 games of the year and the Broncos lose their last 2 games of the year, the Colts are in on tiebreakers. So many clinching scenarios in the AFC. The NFC is a little bit less hectic. You have the Buccaneers and the Seahawks on the outside looking in. They got to go win their division. That's pretty much it. Go win your division, and you'll make the playoffs. Right now, the Rams have a 1-game lead over the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers and Falcons have the same record, 8-7, but the Falcons hold the tiebreaker. With 2 weeks remaining in the season for these teams. Now, I know we already said there's a Monday night game coming up tonight. The Packers are playing. Okay, cool. Packers are playing, I don't really think that we need to worry about, are they going to lose? Are they going to miss the playoffs? Because, well, even though they aren't necessarily clinched into the playoffs, it would take a drastic collapse for the Packers to miss the playoffs. So we're not going to worry about them too much. But we need to worry about next week, I should say, the Falcons and the Buccaneers, the Seahawks and the Rams. Who's going to win those divisions? Winner's going to go to the playoffs. The loser is probably not going to get a wild card spot. It's going to be the last chance in. Final segment coming up on this Monday. I got a few things in the news that I would like to talk about, and we'll wrap things up and send you into the night. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. And we're back. Final segment. We are monitoring some things here in the studio. As I'm recording this, there's some news regarding NHL stuff. As you may know, I'm a New York Ranger fan. We are very depressed this year. Man, I'm just sad all around. The Yankees lose the World Series. The Giants are the Giants. We don't even need to discuss them. The New York Giants, currently in sole possession of the number one pick. They are the only team that has 2 wins on the year. Everybody else has more than 2 wins on the year. And now the New York Rangers. We talked about this a little bit when the drama was going on with Jacob Trouba, and are they going to trade Jacob Trouba? It was the big buzz around the league. They end up sending him to Anaheim for crumbs, but they don't have to retain any salary. The New York Rangers, 2 times in the past 3 years, have gone to the Eastern Conference Finals and the Stanley Cup playoffs. They have also, last year, the New York Rangers broke the franchise record for wins in a season. They won 55 out of 82 games. In the NHL, that's really hard to do. You don't see 70-win teams like you do in the NBA. Right now, the New York Rangers are 16 wins, 16 losses, 1 overtime loss. They find themselves multiple spots and multiple points out of the playoffs. And it was just announced today that veteran winger for the New York Rangers, Chris Kreider, is a healthy scratch. Now, this doesn't have the same feel as when Trouba was a healthy scratch. It was literally called a healthy scratch for roster management reasons. This is just a healthy scratch. Rangers are terrible. You know who's not terrible is the team that beat them over the weekend, your Carolina Hurricanes. Yeah. How about those Hurricanes? Not the best year that we would have thought that they were going to have, but still decent nonetheless. They are 3rd in the Metropolitan Division right now, squarely ahead of the other teams in the Metro. When you look at the standings in the Metro, somehow, some way, the Pittsburgh Penguins are the 4th team in the Metro. We've been hearing about the death of the Penguins for forever. And, this is it. This is their last run. I think they even made the playoffs, or they didn't make the playoffs last year. They made a push, and they almost made the playoffs. It was Washington, the Capitals, who ended up making the playoff, that final spot in the playoffs in the East. Well, right now in the Metropolitan Division, those Capitals are the class of the field with 23 wins, 8 losses, and 2 overtime losses. Carolina sits at 21-11-1. Just a quick little update for you on your NHL action. As far as the NBA goes and the standings there, the Hornets, not going well. It's not going well. They are 7-21, 7 wins, 21 losses. They are 13th in the East. They are not getting any better. They've lost their last 4 games. They are 0-7 in their division. They are 6-20 within their conference. Man. Young team. It's about all I can really say about them is they're a young team. Hopefully, eventually, they can get it back on track. I thought maybe this would be the year. I thought that they would at least compete for the 10 seed in the East and be a play-in team. Nope, they're 5 games behind Detroit, the Pistons, who were the worst team in the NBA last year. Remember they lost like 25 games in a row or something like that, Detroit did last year? Right now, they're the last team in the playoff. Yeah. Now, they're not in the playoffs per se. They're in the play-in games, but they have a chance. The Charlotte Hornets do not. And I don't know what needs to change. I've been saying it. I think we need more star power, and I don't think you're going to get that through free agency. Maybe a blockbuster trade. I don't know. I just don't know what's going to turn this team around. And I do like rookie Tijan Salon. He's been a decent player for us, the number 6 pick in the 2024 draft. Brandon Miller, the number 2 pick in the 2023 draft. Here's his stats for the year so far. 21 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game. Not the best. Not the best. But maybe things turn around soon. A couple of games ago, remember the game against the Bulls that we talked about where both teams combined for a record 70 missed three-pointers? He took 21 shots in that game. 15 threes. He didn't make many of them. 20% from 3, 38% from the floor. So there you go. I got some breaking news for you here regarding next week NFL schedule. The Packers and Vikings have been flexed into the 4:25 slot, whereas the Cowboys and Eagles has been moved to the 1 o'clock slot. That broke as we are recording this episode. How about that? So, hey, luck of the draw, right? 5 minutes later, and that would have broke, and I would have never been able to talk about it. But because it broke now while we're recording, I can chat about it. And like I said, there's probably going to be some things that come up in between now and 5 o'clock that I just don't have a chance to talk about. It is what it is. We'll see what we can do about talking about it tomorrow. Some other things in the world of sports, the free agency period for Major League Baseball. It is still going on and it is still happening. We have some news. Former Dodger Walker Buehler is going to the Boston Red Sox. 1 year, $21 million. Oh boy. He's a 2-time All-Star. He was on the Dodgers and won a World Series with them this year. He also had Tommy John surgery back in 2022. So something to know. Walker Buehler going to the Boston Red Sox. Here's another one for you. Jock Peterson is heading to the Texas Rangers. Jock Peterson most recently with the Diamondbacks. He now signs with the two year ago defending World Series champion Texas Rangers. It feels like a fever dream that the Texas Rangers won the World Series. And the fact that they played Arizona. Like, that's the tale of 2 years. And you saw it in the rankings. We talked about the difference in game 1 between the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. Game 1, the Yankees and Dodgers. It was like night and day, right? So Jock Peterson heading to the Texas Rangers. Congratulations to him. Also, Shohei Ohtani won the 2024 AP Male Athlete of the Year for the 3rd time, tying him with Michael Jordan. The only players to have won the award 4 times Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods, and LeBron James. Here's his quote. I love it. Exclusive interview with the AP. I'm very honored. Obviously, all the hard work has paid off. Maybe next year I'll get the award again. Yeah, probably. Let's go ahead and get into this day in sports history. As we do at the end of every single show, we talk about some things that happened on this day in sports history. On this day, 2022, Alex Ovechkin scored 2 goals, moving him past Gordie Howe on the most NHL career goal list. That was on this day in 2022. If you look at the NHL record book, Alex Ovechkin, he's getting closer to Wayne Gretzky. Not for total points. Nobody is ever going to pass Wayne Gretzky in total points. But as far as most goals ever in the National Hockey League, Alex Ovechkin is now only 28 goals behind Wayne Gretzky. Yep. There you go. A little bit of hockey news for you there. Oh, let's see. What else can we get on here today? 1994, the baseball owners imposed a salary cap. I must have to do some research on that, because why is there not a salary cap in baseball right now? Now, there's a luxury tax. If you go over the luxury tax, however much money you go over goes to the teams that were under. Yeah, that's how that works. Let's see. Can we squeeze one more in here? Let's go with this one. We did 2 good ones. Let's do one that's kind of bad, I guess. 1975. Oh, you know what? No, this one's more important. This one's way more important. On this day, December 23rd, 1972, the Steelers and the Immaculate Reception. That was on this day, 1972. Oh, Franco Harris. How about it? I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a good night, everyone.